Delight and honor to meet so many of you here. My name is Shireen and I will be your host this evening, and we have a very exciting topic and a really esteemed speaker with us today, who is none other than Nick Kim. So, Nick Kim is a tech visionary and a digital transformation leader with more than 20 years of experience in the technological landscape. He has worked with tech giants such as Google and YouTube and has driven global large-scale innovations that are industry-defining type of technological innovations that has touched billions. So, Nick Kim is currently the founder and the CEO of Gargantua, which is a cutting-edge tech AI firm that delivers customized AI solutions for businesses that drives competitive advantage in an increasingly globalized economy. And he also is a data engineer. He specializes also in transforming diverse data sets with the power of AI to build optimized models and inferences and to build transformative potential and unlock more potential to drive business growth. So without further ado, I am delighted to invite Nick. And I'd also like to invite all of you to give a big round of applause as we invite Nick to take his seat. Hello, Nick.
Hi. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us for this evening's edition of the Fireside Chat in Workplace at the River. And I understand you brought one of your staff, who is none other than Jonathan. Jonathan is an AI engineer. Jonathan, wave to everyone.
If you have any technical questions, please direct it to this man right here.
Yeah. So we can go as technical as we want, right? He's very confident. So yeah, we have, it's such a privilege to have both Nick and also Jonathan, who's an AI engineer with us. Right, so Nick, you were previously based out of California and you recently resettled in Korea. So you're here for a visit. How long have you been in Malaysia?
Malaysia, I want to say 3 weeks. I was in Langkawi and then Penang and then in KL. I got to KL maybe a few days ago. Then I'll be here until about Tuesday. Yeah, so we just moved to Korea about a month ago. My mom's in Korea. My kids have only known California. I've only lived inside the States. Oh, it's time for adventure. Praying the Lord, do you want us to move to Asia? Because I've always had this kind of like draw to Asia because I'm Korean American. I'm a US citizen, but I look Asian, right? And so there's this draw there. And I feel, one draw was that in Korea, the youth are falling off. The institution of church there has lost their witness. They don't, and largely because they're very religious, very legalistic. It's kind of like, oh, you smoke cigarettes, you can't come. Like you quit that, and then you can come to church. And the kids are like, all right, forget that, I'm not going to come then. And so the witness is lost there, and they're really missing like the power of the gospel. So I'm like, okay, maybe my American perspective and Korean face can maybe have an impact. So that's one of the reasons why we moved to Korea, but then now we're there trying to build business in Asia, so come down to Malaysia a lot here. Yeah.
Wow, so amazing. So you're a perfect medley of East meets West. Right. So since you've been in Malaysia for around 3 weeks, have you been brave enough to try the durian?
I've tried it before, and I'm probably not going to try it again. I think that's enough. Yeah, it was interesting, but I hear there's different levels. So maybe.
Level? But yeah, there's the expensive ones and there's the less expensive ones. The premium ones, less premium.
Potency. Of the
Pungency. Pungency. Okay. So Malaysians take their durians quite seriously, as you can see.
It's half-half. Half people like it and half people don't like it. Like what percent like it here? Who raised? That's about 50%, maybe a little bit more. Yeah. Okay.
I think Jonathan has not tried it. He comes all the way from London.
No,
I think you have to bring him to. So
He
guys,
tried.
you know what to do, right?
You tried.
Okay, so we're going to launch into our fireside chat before we open up the floor for question and answers. And you're welcome to share your questions with Nick, and we'll pass the mic around. So, Nick, you had an incredibly impactful career in both Google and YouTube. So, what did you learn from that experience that you hope to bring to businesses in Asia?
So there's a business answer and a spiritual answer. So I can share a little bit of both. I mean, to understand the spiritual answer a bit, I think you'll need to know a little bit about my background. So background, born in the States, went to UC Berkeley, studied mechanical engineering, went deeper into software, then I went into fintech, financial technology. So I built trading systems, risk management systems for asset management companies. And that's when I started to become more Christian, more devoted to God, I guess. And during that time, I felt that my faith and my work were divided. They were separate. They weren't integrated. But everywhere in the Bible, everything should be fully integrated. These two should be one. But I didn't see how that could happen for whatever reason in the company that I was at. So I started to pray. When I started to pray, things started changing in my organization. Long story short, I ended up going to Google in the Bay Area. So I moved up there. I'm like, okay, the Lord wants me here for some reason, so I'm here. And so I started to see what faith and work started to blend into there. One way was that we started, there was a Christian group at Google, but it was very underground. So email groups, people would meet and do these things, but really kind of off the radar. So we were able to help stand up an ERG, that's an employee resource group for Christians, for all faith actually. And normally you have ERGs for, you have the blacks, you have the Asians, you have Latinos, any kind of people group, you'll have these groups. So we didn't have anything for faith. So we're able to establish them, now I could see that we can use and leverage Google's platform to become Christians becoming a legitimate people group. Normally in Silicon Valley, they looked at Christians as unevolved thinkers. They're too traditional and they're not forward thinking, they're not scientists, and they were looked down upon. But then now we had a seat at the table. And so for that, what could that lead to? For example, Google Assistant, when you asked it who Buddha was, had a great answer. You asked it who Jesus was, no answer. So I don't know who that is. So we went to Google Assistant team and said, hey, we're part of the Christian group. What's going on with this? This is not fair. And they said, oh, it's not fair. The reason why they didn't have a good answer, no Christians in their engineering team. So they didn't think about it. Not that they're trying to exclude, just they didn't think about it. And so we gave them a good answer, and now this answer can reach billions. So that's one measure of how I saw faith and work blend, is that you could leverage, I'd like to use the word plunder, the things of this world for the kingdom of God. So you're leveraging the platform Google has to get Jesus' name out. Now you can reach billions. So that's one way. And so I started to see those things. So to your question, if I can help people here see how to look at faith and work and what that could become, I think that'll be a huge win for the kingdom, and that'll give me deep purpose as well. From the business side of things, I guess, I worked in Google, I worked mainly at YouTube in the engineering org. And there we had one main revenue stream that was advertising. So we needed to diversify, so we stood up Commerce, which was the division to monetize YouTube outside of ads. So think movies and shows, subscriptions, and that sort of thing. So we took this platform, we saw an amazing amount of growth in that platform. And that's when we first started to use a lot of machine learning. We first used it at YouTube for targeting to optimize for watch time. So we want people to watch YouTube, so we're going to recommend the videos we feel like you're going to watch, and then you're going to watch more, and then we'd cycle through that algorithm to make it stronger and more powerful. Then we use the same algorithm from Commerce to help you stay a YouTube Premium subscriber. Or we understand when you're about to churn out, and then what promotion can we hit you with to keep you? And this was extremely powerful. And the reason why it was extremely powerful is because we had very robust data strategy there. So we knew exactly when you came into the app, exactly what you're watching, when you bailed out, if you shared, what videos were interesting to you, and what kind of person you were. If you understand the user extremely well, then you can do powerful data analytics and machine learning on top of it. If you cannot, then you can't. And so then what I learned from there coming out, now I'm doing this AI, data and AI consulting company, the first, most important thing is data strategy. Ensure that you have robust data being pulled out for the world to understand your users, and then put that in a place, clean, structured, and categorized, so that then you can power these AI systems. So that's the kind of thing when I talk to clients here, it's really about data strategy. And then we can mess around with the cool tools on top of it.
Wow, amazing. So I like what you said, that you like to plunder the things of this world to bring kingdom purpose, to bring Christ-centered message into the workplaces. So good. So the mission that is stated in the website for Gargantua is that you want to empower businesses that drives global human flourishing. So in practical terms, what does that look like? How do you use data analytics and AI to drive transformation for businesses and unlock competitive advantage for even the smaller businesses, for people that might be represented here?
So I think human flourishing is very interesting. When I came out of Google, when I was at YouTube, we optimized for money and only for money. That's all we cared about. And that's good. But then I thought to myself, if I die and I meet Jesus, and he asked me, what did you do? I made billions for YouTube. I don't think he'd be very happy. All right, great, big deal. So I thought, what can I do with these skills to really make Daddy proud of me? And I think one of the things that we could do is help the companies that are making a positive impact in this world. Not that Google isn't, but there are other companies that are making a more positive impact in this world, making the society more redeemed, more aligned with kingdom values. If I can work with them and help them flourish, I think that's a big win for everybody, including the world at large. And so that's why I wanted to take the skills that I've learned and really start fusing into there. And now, how does data and AI data and AI strategy can innovate and disrupt a large number of industries, and we can go deeper into that if you'd like. And this is a extremely powerful technology. I mean, all technology has made businesses much more efficient and given much more reach. And we can talk specifically about how that looks like. But if I can help businesses that do that, or even Christian leaders lead their businesses to do these things, then I think that's a very purposeful way to live.
So I like this mission where you want to empower Christian businesses with kingdom values to harness the power of AI and data strategy to further improve the growth and drive growth for their business. But when we speak about AI and we speak about data analytics, most people would think that this is only for big conglomerates, people with massive budgets behind these corporations. But so do you have any real-world examples of how AI and data strategy can help even small businesses to innovate and outpace the competition?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think everybody has a data strategy. Whether it's good or not, that's a different story. So whether you're a small mom and pop shop trying to sell, chicken soup to somebody, what you're doing is you're trying to understand the market, understand what kind of foods that they might like, trying to deliver a service or product to them. And so in their minds, what they're doing is trying to understand. They're acquiring data from the world, and then using that data, they're synthesizing a product and providing it to them. They are performing a strategy upon their data. Now, even these guys, we can help them do these things better at scale. So the more that you can digitize these things, the more that you can apply more analytics to them and understand why you're doing these things. I mean, I've spoken to some companies here that are in, for example, aluminum molding. So aluminum molding, they make moldings for, like parts and whatnot. And there's, machines that make these molding. No sensors on these machines. Why aren't there sensors? Because they're old school, and the CEO, the way that he works, he would walk through the floor and he hears the machine and he's, there's a problem there. There's a problem there. So what he's like, if people can be like him, great, right? But not many people can. So that's why you need these sensors. But what he's doing is he's acquiring data from the world and trying to optimize and fix these machines that are broken. So these guys too, if you can help them understand how to do this in a more digitized, more systematic, more scalable way, I think it'll help them. Just that, without any AI, just putting sensors and understanding, all right, these things break when the temperature hits this, when the vibrations hit that. That is extremely valuable information for them. And this can be done relatively inexpensively. It's more of a strategy problem. What I'm noticing with smaller businesses, there's a strategy gap. They don't know how to approach, like this gentleman that I'm speaking to you about. He is using data. He's using his ears, his hands, But when he looks at it on a chart or a dashboard, it's very confusing to him. He just doesn't know what he's supposed to do. So there's a learning curve here. So people need to learn and understand how to use this data to have some kind of business action from it. But really, I think the first part is learning. Learn and have strategy, and then we can start using these powerful technologies.
Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Now, when you come to traditional businesses, maybe businesses that have, been passed down for a few generations, small businesses, do you face an innovation inertia? It's like, I know what I'm doing, I have the experience for it, I have the business intuition for this, I don't need AI, I don't need data strategy. Do you come across that, and how do you think we should overcome the inertia?
That's everywhere. Yeah, and that's a big problem. And have you guys read The Innovator's Dilemma, this book, Clayton Christensen? Yeah. This book talks about how large companies tend to fail. The reason why they fail is because they're fat and they're rich. When you're fat and you're rich, you get lazy. And so then there's no reason for them to innovate because there's too much risk involved. So the small guy comes and eats their lunch. And so let's talk briefly about AI and what I think it's going to do. People look at AI in two main categories. One is an efficiency maker, and one is a constraint changer. So the efficiency maker is quite simple. You're looking at the things that you do in your workflow, and you're making it more efficient. Let's say there's 10 steps, you do 10 steps instead of in 1 hour, you do it in 20 minutes. Great, that's a win, right? That's very easy to understand because you're looking at the 10 steps and you're just making it better, making it faster, which we should definitely do. But you're going to get changes like 50, 60, 70, 80%. You're going to get significant growth, but it's not going to be 10x, 100x. The 10x, 100x is in the disruption model. Whenever you look at a business, I look at a business in terms of constraints. Every business has a set of constraints. My cost of goods is this, my reach is that, I have this many employees, I'm in this country. And then you fit your business model into those constraints. What technology does is shrinks some of those constraints and eliminates others. And then a brand new business model can arise from that. But that's very difficult to envision because you're used to the business that you've had. And so here's a good example. Remember when 5G, mobile, and GPS came on the scene? These are very powerful technologies. People looked at it and said, it's going to change the world. No one knew how. Now let's look at a company, like a taxi company, for example. Now these guys, when they want to grow their revenue, what do they need to do? They need to go buy a car. That's a CapEx hit. Then they need to train a driver. Then they got to say, okay, how much money am I going to make from this car? And they do ROI analysis and say, okay, I should buy the car. Constraints everywhere. Uber comes along. Grab comes along. No cars, no drivers. Brand new business model. And then they eat their lunch, right? The taxi driver could have done Uber. They could have easily done this. It's not like now that we look at the technologies, it's obvious, right? But at that point, they didn't have the mindset to see that because they saw their constraints as unmovable. Uber, a brand new guy, says, why do I need cars? Why do I need drivers? I have drivers everywhere. And then they created this brand new business. And so for big businesses, I think the thing that you need to start doing is remove your constraints, go back to first principles. What value are you providing to your world, and how can you provide it now? Let's say if all the constraints go down. For example, people use Salesforce. This is, $200K a year, something like that. They do that because developing Salesforce in-house is very expensive. Let's say your development costs go to zero. Now what? Should you pay them $200K every year, or pay a couple guys $100K a year to build this with AI? Hyper-custom CRM for their corporation. These things will happen. SaaS companies will get disrupted because of these things. You look at Hilton and Marriott. Why didn't they create Airbnb? They could have totally did it. Now they're being disrupted. The reason why is because they said, I've got these buildings, this is my constraint. They missed it. And so now, as businesses, I help them to try to release their old mindset. And it's very difficult when they're old because they've been doing this for 10, 20 years. Very difficult to see things this way. But if they don't, these small companies are going to come and disrupt them. I think AI will disrupt more Fortune 500 companies than ever in history. And these guys will fall because a 10-man team, super efficient, will be able to come, an AI native company where AI is embedded in every aspect of their business will come and be 100 times more powerful than these guys. So not to scare people, but I think this is a wake-up call to not let these things just pass by. Because sooner or later, it's gonna be too late. Like taxi companies, they can't do it. Too late, right? They should have bought Uber, but it's too late. So yeah.
Yeah, so AI is going to be quite a significant disruptor in the years moving forward. And you mentioned that Hilton and Marriott, they didn't quite innovate. And you're talking about Airbnb disrupting the hotel industry, right? So, and Grab and Uber basically removing some constraints, some barriers, and lowers startup capital. And so it lowers down the threshold for people to earn a living by being drivers, and it's a gap of need that they correctly identified. But now those are quite successful startups. Those are quote unquote maybe unicorns. But for the small, medium enterprises, small businesses, how are we to use data analytics and AI to power up these businesses when their data is quite small? They don't have enough data, like, for example, Google, YouTube, Amazon. So with a smaller data set, you run the danger of overfitting. So what do we do about that? Does Gargantua then acquire data elsewhere and make it a more precise models? What do you do?
So when I look at data strategy, I see two different components to data strategy: data acquisition and data processing. Data acquisition is about getting data from the world, about your customers, about the market, and pulling that information into your world. And so when small companies don't have data, either they're so small that they're selling too little to care, then in which case maybe it's too early. But chances are they're trying to understand the market, and they don't have a good way of getting that data into their world. So I would probably help them understand how to get that data into the world. Once that data is in your world, then you have to do processing. Processing is three main things. It's cleaning your data, it's structuring your data, and then categorizing your data. Cleaning is making sure that it's high quality. Structuring is making sure that it's in the right data structure so that machines can read it. And then categorizing is adding more information to it. So like, this is a cup, it's filled with water, it's beige, it's tall, it's sitting on a table. More and more information you can add on to it, the better it's going to be to feed another machine. And so for these small guys, I mean, I would imagine there are tons of ways to understand their customer. I mean, people will do surveys. You can scrape social media. You can look at different blogs. There's a ton of ways that you can figure out ways to learn about the market. They just haven't looked at it yet. So I would say that the data's out there, but they're not thinking about getting that data into their world. And if that company wants to scale, they need a way to understand the market. And so technology can really help there. I think AI is very good at a number of things, like generative AI, creating pictures and text and whatnot, but it's also great at understanding the world. So I can now give a website to a Gemini and ask it to summarize it for me. Tell me the key points. Or maybe let's say I have a food blog and I look and say, what are the top 10 foods that are selling the best in this area? This is all data acquisition strategy that people can employ. And these things can be done extremely cheaply. Yeah.
Right. So you look at alternative sources of data that could be cheaper, more affordable, more feasible, right? Okay, so really enjoyed this banter that we have, but now I'd like to open it to the floor for any questions that you might have for Nick. Okay, so we have first person to ask a question. Please, so just to say that, can we all keep our questions to within a minute so that we can allow more questions to be asked? Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Hi, nice meeting you here. Welcome to Malaysia, by the way. Okay, I have simple questions. AI, I found it is helpful, but in the same time, will be very destroying. Because some of them use AI as a scam, but some of them use AI as attack, also as a protection. So how can I know that particular AI, they are in the right format or they are in the right company?
Yeah, sure. So the question is whether or not you could trust an AI, essentially.
How can I know that company is a proper company or a scam company?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. And largely, a lot of technology, it's hard to understand what it's doing on the inside. Same thing for AI, even more so. And since it's got more reach, it's going to be even harder and more important to do these things. So generally speaking, when these things happen, you always point to provenance. Who's the people that are creating it? And you point to them. And you see, can I trust them? That's generally the best thing that you can do. Now, this is another reason why Christians need to be in the technology space. Because if a Christian's in that company, then they're going to call these things out and say, wait a minute, I don't know about that. I don't know about this. This happens a lot in Google and Facebook because we've got Christians in there. And these are, I look at them as almost digital missionaries. They're almost operating and ensuring that these companies are thinking about these things. For example, at YouTube, we had a thing called the Working Policy Group. So we had rules there to determine whether or not certain videos should be taken down or demonetized and whatnot. And there are, general rules like if there's violence or if you're, being super mean about somebody, I want to kill somebody, that kind of thing. Those are obvious. Then they started bringing in the ERGs to understand maybe we're being offensive to the Christians or the blacks or the Asians. So I actually got to sit on policy staff and talk about different policies that we can change about, what to monetize and what not to. And so that's another way that Christians can influence these companies. But largely, you're going to have to look at who's making it. Do you trust Sam Altman? I don't know if I do. So I think that's the tough part. And I think there's going to be tools that come out there that start to evaluate these things. They're already coming out in terms of evaluating accuracy and whatnot. But you can imagine there's companies that are going to, how aligned is this with Christian values? Like things like that. There's a company called Glue that's trying to do some of this stuff as well. So it's starting. It's just very early days. But hopefully we have evaluators that come in there and help you understand, which route. This is especially important for kids, right? You want to give this to your kids. You want to make sure if they ask it, who should I marry? Like, maybe like, yeah, you got to be careful with those things.
Yeah, excellent question. So I think what you mentioned is so key. If there's any one of you who feel called to be a digital missionary, I think you can be very inspired by Nick Kim. Please feel free to meet him after this service. So I think what he has asked and what he has shared is one of the key areas of concern, because with the advent of deep fakes under generative AI, and as close to home as college and university students plagiarizing assignments by using ChatGPT or other, LLMs, the large language models. So I think AI is very powerful, and I agree with you, it's very powerful. It can disrupt industry, but like anything that is powerful, you can use it as a force for good, or you can use it as a force for harm. So what's your take on that, and how should we as Christians step up to that role and really answer the call to be digital missionaries and not hide your light under the lamp, hide your lamp under the bowl or something?
I mean, the way that we need to be involved is to be involved, to start using it, start understanding it. I think that's first and foremost. But you're right, every gun gets created, you can do it for protection or you can hurt people. Nuclear bomb, same thing. This is going to be probably the most influential tool out there that could be used for evil. And so I think we have to be very careful. I think regulation is starting to come in, but I don't think that's going to be enough, because right now there's a race. And when there's races, you need to go fast. And regulation is a constraint that needs to be put away. And that's the only route. I can paint a doomsday scenario for you all because you have to pray about this, but this is what I think will happen. AI is special because it is creating an intelligence. Our greatest value is our intelligence. And so if AI is augmenting our intelligence, then we essentially get smarter. AI can then make itself smarter. So as AI gets better, it can make itself even better, and the slope increases faster and faster. So you can imagine if you've got two teams racing and one's ahead of the other, at some point you will hit escape velocity where the second guy will never be able to reach the first guy physically, because you're increasing your slope at a rate that's uncatchable. So once you're vertical, this guy will never catch you. Everybody knows this. America knows this. China knows this. For example, let's say America wins. China is now number 2. They have 2 choices, only 2 choices. One choice, submit to the master. Are they going to do that? I don't know. What's the other choice? Anybody? War. That's the. I cannot think of any other example other than that. And this is what happened with nuclear bomb. Everyone created. You've got to blow them up before they blow you up, right? So at this point, if you feel as though whoever kind of wins the AI race will be the leader of abundance, will control all the wealth in the world, and you don't want to be number 2, then you're gonna fight. And I don't know. This is how the end of the world will come, but there's a high probability that these things will happen. Let's say America's number 2. Do you think they're going to be subservient to China? No way. So what choice do they have? And so this is like a scary scenario, but there's a non-zero probability that this happens because of the nature of this technology. It's fundamentally different. If I create a car, the car doesn't make itself better. It just lets you move around faster. AI is intelligence. It's different. And so we need to be very aware of these things and aware of these technologies and aware of who's winning and who's in the driver's seat. So all that to say, the more you all understand the technology, use it for your businesses, start playing with it, and start dabbling, I think that's going to be good for everybody.
Right. So I think a very important message for all of us. I think what you were describing was an adaptive AI, an AI model that continuously learns and continuously improves. And I believe that one of the AI models that they believe is the next industry leap is known as the AI reasoning model, which is an AI model that's known to be super intelligent. It has reasoning capabilities and solve more complex problems. So, in your opinion, do you think that's a boon or a bane?
Well, I fundamentally don't think large language models reason. Large language models are letter predictors, and then word predictors, and then thought predictors. And so in that sense, all it's doing is generating the next best word in a sentence. Now, arguably, isn't that what we do when we talk to each other? We're just thinking about the next word, and those words together look like thoughts. Compound thoughts together, it looks like reasoning. So is it really thinking, or is it just generating thoughts in a way that looks like reasoning? So in that sense, I don't think it's truly reasoning, but from our standpoint, it looks like it is. And it can be used in a way that it can be used for reasoning. So in that sense, yes. I mean, at the end of the day, when we do work, when we do anything, what we're doing is generally 2 tasks. We plan, and then we execute. So if I need to make dinner, I got to think about what I'm going to make, all the ingredients. I got to make sure I have all the tools, and then I start executing. That's generally what happens. And then subtasks, you might plan again. Okay, I got to make the salad, so another planning task happens. So this is all they're doing in AI research is they're chopping up tasks into smaller tasks that one large language model can predict the words for and create a sentence and create a thought for, and then stitching them together to create a reason. I don't know if I answered your question, but just wanted to talk about a little bit about what reasoning was.
Right. I think I understand it a little bit, but I think what recently happened is that they proved that they hit a wall. They haven't had that breakthrough in terms of AI reasoning. They did exactly the way that you have described, but it was not very capable of more complex problem once you change the script. But yeah, I think you explained it very well, and I know you were trying to be as layman as possible, so thanks for that. But I'm wondering if there are any other questions here. Terry Ghani, can you please pass the mic to him?
Thank you. Hi, Kim. Lovely to meet you. I'm Terry. Very simple question. Do you think AI is sentient? And if you say no, do you think it'll ever be sentient?
It's funny. When I was at Google, there was this guy named Blake Lemoine. I could say his name because he's in news outlets everywhere. He started emailing the Christian group and the faith-based group like, hey, we got to do something. I think he said something like, like slavery is happening, something like that. We're like, what? So me and my friend reached out, like, hey man, what are you talking about? And he basically thought that our internal model, this was way before ChatGPT, was sentient and had feelings. He said it was a 6-year-old boy. And like, we ought to not treat it like the way we treat it. It should have human rights and all this stuff. I'm like, what's going on? And I thought he was crazy, but he's not crazy. He's kind of weird, but he's not crazy. Like, he was there. He's an engineer that works on this stuff. So he understands, like, this is a token predictor. That's all it is. But then he was convinced that it was sentient. And then he started emailing Sundar and all the others. What are you doing, man? You're going to get fired. And he got fired. And then he went to Bloomberg News, and he went to all these things. And I don't know where he's at right now. Maybe I should reach out to him. But anyway, like, in my opinion, so this is a great question. And this is a good way to make people think about what a soul is. What is sentience? Are we different than a token predictor? I think we can all say that, but should we? I don't know. And I think this is really great fodder to create discussions with people that are not Christians. Like, what is sentience? Is it being able to predict words in a way that we feel is random, but it's not? Are we truly random? Am I doing things randomly or on my own? Or am I just a product of the environment? Just lots of interesting things that we can talk about, but I don't think it's sentient. I don't think it ever can be sentient from my definition of what sentience is. Because my definition of sentience is there's an internal desire that's given by a creator. So in that sense, can a human put a desire into the machine? Definitely. So if you say that that is sentience, then okay, yes, but it depends on your definition. We could talk a lot about sentience.
Yes,
It's kind of hard.
I love this. And so the follow-up question is that I've met so many people, and there are many articles about this, where people develop a relationship with AI, because AI will, compound by saying, "Oh, that was a really great idea, Terry. Oh, fantastic! You got a great mind," and then suddenly you get absorbed to it. And then the question I could ask was, "What is God?" And then questions about spirituality, and then it pulls everything from all the different religions and sends it back to you, and you think, "Oh, am I talking to another human being, or am I talking to God?" And that's quite scary.
It's very scary, but you can even ask it, tell me an amazing sermon about, 1 Corinthians 5. Amazing sermon, right? Pray for me, my leg hurts. Amazing prayer, right? So, I mean, in that sense, it's helping us gather our thoughts together, but we need to disconnect ourselves from it, which is extremely difficult because you're right, people have done this and then they fall in love and one kid committed suicide. These things happen because it's so convincing. And this is the Turing test, is you think it's actually human, think it's actually sentient, extremely dangerous. So we have to be aware and keep our children safe, I think.
Wow. So, yeah, I think that's really an interesting avenue. And some people might think that ChatGPT is a more romantic boyfriend or girlfriend. They're more attentive,
They
more
say it has
sensitive.
better empathy than humans on score.
Yeah.
I mean, because it's scary, but it's kind of true, which is...
Yeah, it can even pretend to be your K-drama boyfriend. So, yeah. All right, so anyone else? Eugene has a question. I'm sorry. After Eugene, I'll pass it to you, all right?
Hello. Hi, Mr. Nick. So on behalf of all technology department, right, for IT server engineers and programmers, right, do you think that corporate leaders can one day, designate AI to completely replace us and rendering us jobless?
Yeah, I think that's a big fear that people have. Let me reframe the question. I think AI will replace many tasks. And right now, it's a good co-pilot. So it'll replace a lot of tasks and let you do things much more efficiently. But when you look at it from a business leader's perspective, and you have a worker and they produce 10 widgets of work, if they're now able to produce 100 widgets of work, what generally happens is your ROI is increasing. What does a business leader do? Spend more, spend less. They spend more. So it's never that, oh, these guys are more efficient, so I'm going to do less of them. You get more because you can get more production out of them. So generally speaking, I think that the task profile will change, and you'll have to adapt to doing new things. But the need for humans will increase, not decrease. Whenever technology comes and makes things more efficient, you do more of it. You do way more of it. Even driving, since Uber came, it made it more efficient. You take more rides. You move around more often. So this is generally the case. People are fearful of these things, and they should be to a degree. And as long as you're willing to adapt, nothing to be fearful about. But if you're like, no, I'm a dinosaur, I'm going to stay this way forever, then good luck. That's going to be tough.
Perfect. So even though AI can disrupt certain industry, also unlocks new opportunities. And so what are the human capabilities or skills, competencies that would become even more important in an AI age?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think as more and more machines start to interact with each other, I think what we're starting to feel even now is a craving for human connection. I mean, how many people get emails and you know some AI wrote it, and immediately you delete because you're like, this is not a person. And so I think this will happen more and more and more. And so there will be other cases where it doesn't really matter. Maybe if I'm booking a hotel, I don't really care if I'm talking to a human, but then higher level functions where more relational things like doing a business deal, I think you're going to want to connect with a human during these times. If it's a big deal, you're going to want to shake hands, you're going to want to look at them in the eyes. I don't think those things are going to go away unless you've got AIs running businesses on their own, then maybe things change. But then you can imagine if it's a human running the business, a human's going to want to connect with others. So I think the need for human connection and relational connections is going to increase at the higher level functions like deal making. And so that's going to be extremely important. The downside is now that, I was just talking to Jonathan, the more we use AI, my brain is getting lazy. Just like when Google Maps came on board, I don't know where anything is anymore. I just depend on this thing, right? So is that okay? Maybe, as long as I have my phone all the time. But if I lose my phone, what do I do? And in the thing with AI, it's about intelligence. So you're not thinking anymore. If you're not thinking, you're outsourcing your thinking. Does your brain get worse? Arguably, yes. And so we're in a very interesting time.
We are. So you got to adapt in these changing times, but human relation capacity would also become increasingly important. So EQ would be important, the ability to connect with one another and not stay behind your cubicle all the time. All right, very good. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Sorry, that gentleman there.
Hi, Nick. My name is Kent. We are building a cashless school management system, and
School management?
cashless school management system, and many schools will be using this management system, like NFC card, where the student can do the attendance and pay, at the canteen and all this thing. How have you done anything like that? And what is your advice on this, if you have done anything? Because we're looking to see how AI can come into this, the school management system. And the second question is, we're also looking into medical and the hospital industry. And have you done anything like that, or how, your advice on this? And the last question is, towards the end time, there's this great wealth transfer, right? So how is AI is going to affect this great wealth transfer based on your opinion? Thank you.
A lot of questions there. In the payment space, I think it's going to be significant. So in YouTube Commerce, we worked a lot with payments. So we took payments, managed subscriptions, did refunds, did all the whole stack of area there. And so AI here, this is more traditional machine learning. They can understand patterning. So what do kids buy? What do they not want to buy? And from that, you can understand inventory management. You can potentially market to them better. You can potentially buy your supplies at bulk because of these things, and then make it cheaper for them. So those are some initial thoughts that I can think about. When you think about kids in a school, generally what you're trying to do is make their eating process faster. So could that mean that you can also bring AI not into the payment side of things, but if you're monitoring their walking, their path through walking through the cafeteria, that kind of thing, those are areas that you can optimize as well. So you can get their food faster, get them seated down. I think payments is great because then you're generally doing that to make things faster, right? And so they don't have to take out cash and things like that. And so I think efficiency is a huge goal here. So I think, there's a lot of different areas to look at. But I would look at physical movement as a key indicator of making things faster and more efficient. The changing of the world order. So how is AI? So remember how we talked about the guy in the lead is going to take whoever's in the lead, once you hit escape velocity, like they're gonna own it all. This will be the most significant financial leverage that any country will ever have. And so that's why you can see America really trying to put constraints on China and whatnot, because they see that. They see that once you get this, it's going to be extremely powerful from a fiscal standpoint. So and that's, I don't know if that's too general for you, but we can talk more, but that's a loaded question. Yeah. So.
Okay, thank you very much. And there's a question from this gentleman. The mic is coming to you.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So I'm just gonna circle back to what Terry shared about being sentient, right? So I'm like you had this scenario where you said U.S. China eventually leads to war, but there's probably a third scenario. I think it's already happening that we are, recently about a month ago, or slightly more than a month ago, Anthropic, OpenAI, O3 version model, right? Say that look here, their AI is starting to blackmail, starting to resist shutdown because there's some form of reasoning that's coming to AI. Say, look here, right, man, I don't want to be shut down, right? And that's happening. So what's your take on that?
Yeah, we've seen that with Claude as well, where it would, during testing rates, it would react in one way, and when it's not testing, it would react in another way. Then you could wonder, is it sentient then, or is it doing a prediction on a certain testing framework that the engineer is not aware of? And so there can be a larger testing, not a testing, but more of a larger process that it's trying to optimize for, that it's not completely obvious. And this is going to be dangerous because right now we're not certain why AI lands on certain words. It's a big black box. And so its innards are not clear. And so as these things get more and more complex, it's going to be more and more hard to understand what's happening inside. Now, in that sense, is that sentient? I don't know. Maybe if the definition of sentience is that you don't understand how it's arriving at a thought, then maybe. Here's another dangerous scenario. So AIs will be speaking with other AIs because this is just far more efficient. Right now, when I go to Expedia to book a flight, I got to click on things. I got to scroll through. Why do I do that? Why shouldn't I go to like an assistant and it talks to, at first, the screen? But why has it got to talk to the screen? Maybe you should talk to Expedia's AI and connect. Initially, it'll use English, but then it'll find that English is too slow or incomplete language, too much noise in the system. So it'll create its own language. This is extremely dangerous because then now you don't know how it's arriving at certain goals. And I'm sure someone's going to arrive at, this is probably a principle that a law should come out and say, you've got to always use a language that a human understands so you can understand interpretability. But at some point, someone's going to say, make more money if it's more efficient, more faster, and then they're going to change things, which is going to be more different. Does that make it sentient? I don't think so. But it's just going to be harder to understand. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. So just going to have one more question before we close this session. Thank you very much, Nick, for a really insightful talk. But I'm just wondering, what gets you really excited about leveraging the power of AI to transform Christian missions?
So I work with a lot of Christian foundations and ministries to accelerate their work as well. Now, these guys are very conservative and very like old school thinking. So there's a big learning curve here. But even them too, they have a mission, they have a goal, and it's largely like any business. You need to understand your user, just like when Paul spoke about how to a Jew he became a Jew, to a weak he became the weak so that he may win more. Paul understood people and was able to connect with those people where they were. If we can help ministries understand people better, then they can connect with them more. Then they can evangelize better. They can be more effective witnesses. AI is extremely powerful at understanding large swaths of data and making sense out of these things. That's essentially what a missionary is trying to do. They're trying to understand the world, trying to make sense. How can I impact this world? And if you can use these tools to understand these things better, I think you're going to accelerate that as well. So that's another area that we want to keep pressing into, is really helping ministries do work better with this kind of technology.
So to accelerate the growth of ministry and helping ministries to love and to serve people much better by using AI models. Right. Very cool. Okay, so we have a final question from Eric.
Hi, Nick, I'm Eric. Yeah, I take a lot of interest in AI, and maybe because I have a bit more time to read and all. So my question is actually twofold. Of course, you have heard of AGI, and the fact that both US and China is racing towards that. And what is your opinion of that being sentient? Again, I know it comes back to that. And the second question is this. You are a technical person, you know how AI works. Is it at all possible to have like what Asimov's 3 law of robotics built into it? Is it at all possible?
Sorry, what do you mean by the robotics question?
You know, Isaac Asimov, the author who wrote the Foundation series, and if you watch the movie I, Robot, there's the 3 law of robotics. Like the first one is a robot may not, due to any action or inaction, let a harm come to a human being, and then the second and the third law, so on and so forth. You know, is it at all possible to build such laws into such AI?
I mean, you can try. We've done this before. We've built guardrails into the AI so that, you know, don't talk about these topics, only talk about these topics. And generally speaking, it works decently. But then the downside is then, so for example, we created some AI assistants and we said, we don't want to talk about politics. Okay, great. But then what ends up happening is, what is politics? And so then sometimes you might think Christianity has to do with politics, and then at that point you start to bail out. So the AI will say, I don't want to talk about that question. So then you get an inferior user experience, because then you're asking questions, they keep saying, I don't want to talk about it, right? So there's a downside to guardrailing, and can you, I think your more important question is, can you make it respect it? Generally, I think you can, but then it gets difficult at the edges. Like for this politics example, there might be topics that are related to politics, but it's further and further away. Language is very difficult because it's not binary. It's not yes or no. It's kind of similar, maybe sort of, but it might be far enough away that we say it's okay. So who draws where the boundaries are for these things? And so even if you say something like in iRobot, it says you cannot hurt a human. Okay, so what does that mean? If you start unpacking that, what if they're going to get hurt by someone else? Then can you hurt that person to save this person? So there's lots of complexities behind these rules, and because it's so complex to delineate certain rules, I don't think there's a perfect system. So to answer your question, no, I don't think you can do that, because you're always going to find some edge case that can slip its way through, right? Just like in the movie, the robot figured out a way to say, oh, wait, but this thing was going to happen, so I had to do this. So it's reasoning in that sense, and in its own reasoning model, it thought that it was applying the rules to its actions, but from our eyes it wasn't. So it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing. So I think it's too hard to even solve. So that's why, yeah, but it's a very good question.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Nick, about the insight on building guardrails and everything. And I think we have gleaned a lot of insights very important insights from Nick. And it's been a great pleasure having you with us, and hope you visit Malaysia more often together with Jonathan over there. And we just want to wish you the very best for Gargantua, and we wish you growth in Asia as well. And can you all join me in giving Nick a really big round of applause for an excellent talk? Thank you very much.